also knew I had a job to do, and that was to keep myself in close proximity to Mrs. Kennedy to prevent any problems. Now, the driver kept the car more to the left-hand side of the street, keeping the president, who was in the right rear, away from the crowd on the right side. Mrs. Kennedy, who was in the left rear, was therefore exposed to that crowd on the left side. As we started down Main Street, the crowd began to grow more dense and more dense. They spilled into the street. And I got up in the back of that car a number of times to be in close proximity to Mrs. Kennedy. There were high-rise buildings, windows were open. You must remember there was very little central air conditioning in those days. People were in those windows, on balconies, on rooftops. Not unusual, it had happened all over the country and all over the world. We got to the end of Main Street, we hit Houston Street and turned right. On the right-hand side of Houston Street were some buildings. One was a city building, it happened to be the jail. Most of the people were on that side of the street. On the left-hand side of the street was a grassy area called Dealey Plaza. There weren't very many people there. At the end of Houston, right in front of us, was a building named the Texas School Book Depository. There were some windows open on that building. We had scanned it. We didn't see anything unusual. We headed for that building. We had to make a left-hand turn as we approached that building. It was less than 90 degrees. It was difficult for the driver to do. Some of the motorcycle riders dropped off. Were going too slow. They couldn't maintain their bikes. We started to straighten out going down Elm Street. As we proceeded down Elm, I was scanning the area to my left, a grassy area. We got down about 80 feet down Elm Street or so. I heard an explosive noise from my right rear. Came from the right rear of the motorcade. My scan took me from looking to my left, back across the presidential car. I scanned across the trunk, and what I saw was the president grab his throat and move to his left. And I knew he was in trouble. I knew something was wrong, and so I jumped from the car and ran, trying to get myself on top of the car to place myself between President and Mrs. Kennedy and whoever was trying to cause them harm.